Thank you. Woohoo! So I get to do raising your spiritual energy. And you know, really, I got to thank Dorothy for the lead-in on this today, because I didn't know how it was going to start. And she said one comment, did you pick it up? Do you want me to do the lively one now or at the end? What does that mean? Why would we have a lively one and a one that's not so lively? Well, because the one that's lively is to get us started, and the one that's not so lively is to help us raise our spiritual energy. Huh? Okay. So that's what this is about, spiritual energy. So when I was preparing this, I unfortunately ended up with 10 points, so I'm not going to get through all of them, because each one of them is a Sunday talk in itself. So what I like to do is I'd like to kind of go right from modern day science right back to the Garden of Eden in the book of Genesis, and kind of just tell why they're all the same. And it works exactly like that. So the first idea is understanding the nature of spirit and the contraction and expansion of energy and how it works. And the most simplest way that you can get a handle on this is if we took in a plate, a glass plate, and stuck it in a freezer, and we left it there overnight. And if we took that glass plate out in the morning and was really observant and just held it there, we would notice a couple of different things happening. First, we noticed that the glass plate would fog over. We would notice that there'd be a little steam. And then we would notice that drops of moisture would begin to form on the plate. Anybody ever seen that? Yeah, okay, yeah, we all saw that. Yeah, and so really, it's the same as right here, we've got moisture in there. Can you see it? No. But if I brought that plate out, you'd be able to see it. And if I collected the drops off that plate and stuck them in the freezer, I'd have ice. So the fundamental question that we got to begin to ask ourselves is, what's the difference between the ice, the water, the steam, and the moisture in the air that we can't see? And the answer is, there isn't any difference. It's all the same. Whoa, that's not what my mind is thinking. Now, there is a difference here. Yeah, there is a difference in the physical world, and what that is simply one thing. It's the vibrational rate of the molecular structure. So as the vibration heats up, the ice begins to melt, and as you heat more, it begins to vibrate higher, and you see the steam coming out of the pot, and then as it vibrates more, it just disappears. And similarly, the process goes down the other way. So really, the only difference there is the vibrational rate of the molecular structure. So if you're reading books on modern day people, Gary Zukav and Fritjof Capra, especially the Tao of Physics, they talk about this in a scientific terms, because that is a natural process. So in spiritual journey, how do we do that same thing? How do we raise our spiritual energy? First off, we don't raise our spiritual energy, it's already there. How do we raise our consciousness to be in harmony with this spiritual energy? That's the question. And Dorothy already gave us the answer. What we do is we do the lively stuff first, because that appeals to our emotional self, our human self. We get that done, okay? We get everybody up there, and people are more open and receptive. At the end, we really get into it. That's where we really do it. So in order to raise the vibrational rate of your molecular structure of your body and your being, it requires you to go into stillness and quiet. And as we go into the stillness and the quiet and block out all of the sensations of the world around us, then we get in touch with that higher vibrational rate. That's the spirit within inside of us, and that's why we do it. And there's a lot of different disciplines that can take you there physically. For example, a lot of people that have gone the route of being a vegan, for example, I'll use that as one area. What they do is because meat has a denser, more thicker vibrational rate and slows you down, whereas the vegan diet will increase that vibrational rate and give you a little bit extra of an edge when you go into this meditative process. I'll give you an idea about how you already all experience this. If you're ever into sports or athletics or any meditation or anything, when you get into what they call the zone, like when we go out into the mountains, I'll tell you, it's tough getting started. But then after you get started, something kicks in and that all goes. And you're in the zone. That's because we've raised our vibrational rate of the molecular structure and we've gone past that first barrier of physical resistance. So there is a scientific principle behind this, and it really does work. And you don't have to believe it. Try it. You'll experience it yourself. I tell you, when I became into this philosophy after 17 years of an alternative type, my mantra for me to help me get focused was, I am calm, centered, peaceful, and poised at all times and in all situations. So that was my affirmation. And I did that daily, all day long as I was working and walking and thinking. I was using that one because I needed to do that. People said, well, how long did you do it? Oh, 10 or 11 years. Why? Because I needed to be calm a lot. Well, do you do it now? Yeah, because I still get excited. And it's not good for me. It's not good for people I share with. Okay? So it's that energy that we got to work with. Dr. Holmes talks about this in the textbook in page 35. He says, there is a universal mind, spirit, intelligence that is the origin of everything. It is first cause, it is God. The universal life and energy finds an outlet in and through all that is energized. So that means everything has got this energy there. Everything is a director and an absorber of energy. There is only one life back of everything that lives. There is one energy back of all that is energized. This energy is in everything. There is one spirit back of all expression. That means, that is the meaning of the mythical saying, in him we live, move, and have our being, in Acts 17:28. So this physical energy, this spiritual energy, is all part of the energy. Everything is energy. So I have the ability to direct this energy whichever way I want. It is my choice. And here lies the fundamental challenge when we get into what I'm going to talk about here, against all odds. When you put yourself in personal situations which somebody says you're sunk, and then you tell them what you want to do, and it's against all odds because people give you a 0% chance of succeeding. Anybody ever been in that position? Yep. I got a lot of stories about that, but the one I wanted to talk about, yeah, lost, way too many, but the one I wanted to talk about today was an interesting one, and it's about how you focus your energy. So this was in the early 80s, and I had just got into this in 1980. This was about 83. And so I had this challenge presented to me. I was highly leveraged in investing in the stock market because I had this intuitive feeling there would be a major movement in these stocks, and there was. Not the way I thought it was going to go, went the opposite. Anybody ever have that happen? And that was when the time when we saw the mortgage interest rates jump from about 70 up to 19-20% in the 80s. And so with being heavily leveraged and that happening to me, I was in a position where I lost my home. I ended up selling it back for $1. Not a big deal, except I had 5 kids, 4 full-time and 1 part-time kids. So, and no money. And 2 beat-up old vehicles. And so I was forced to move into a 2-bedroom condo with 5 kids and just barely making it. I had a good job. My job was okay. That was the one good thing. But I had massive bills to pay. And this was an unacceptable place to live, right? Everybody read that for that? Yeah, that wasn't good. So what do you do in that situation? Do you be the poor me? Do you put the energy and attention on all the things that went wrong? I mean, there was that, and I had another stack that I could have called upon if I needed them. But that was enough. Or do you go against what all odds say about conditions and begin to work with an idea? Well, we had this vision being able to live in the country. And what we wanted was, we wanted a house with a southwest view, a deck, a 2-car garage, a fridge, stove, and a dishwasher with nothing down, and a fireplace. That's all. Nothing down. And so that was what we laid out, my partner at the time and I, and we laid that out. That was what our focus was. And when people asked us what we were doing, we told them that. I'm not going to tell you what they said. Are you nuts? You can fill in the blanks. Crazy, are you all of those things? Because against all odds, how can you do that? Very simple. Know what you want. Be prepared to focus on it. Give that your energy and attention, because we're directors of energy. It'll go anywhere we want. That happened. Yes, it did. I made some mistakes. Oh, yeah. There's no doubt I took a serious kicking. But that was the past. I don't want to live in the past. So we put this down, and we decided to do this, and so we started driving out to Cochrane, because I like the Cochrane area, and we go out there and look around at all the places, and I was constantly looking in the paper, and of course still being crazy trying to do this, and we did this for about a year. Every day looked in the paper, out of town for rentals, out of town for sales. Every weekend just about out to Cochrane, driving around and looking at the places just like they were ours. One day, something interesting happened. One day, I picked up in the paper, and rather than looking in out of town for rentals and out of town for sale, I looked in Northwest duplexes for sale. Don't ask me why. I never looked at anything else. But somehow, I ended up looking at that, which I'm going, this is strange. Oh, well, I'll look at it. And there, in the wrong section of the newspaper, they'd put it in the wrong section. It should have gone in out-of-town rentals. They had some repos going up for sale in Cochrane. Half duplexes. Well, we'll go out and have a look at it. Went to the first one. Not bad. Went to the second one. Oh, my God. It had a 2-car garage. It had a southwest view. It had a fireplace. It had a fridge. It had a dishwasher. Didn't have a stove. But it had everything except for a stove. There was one in the other place. I said to the guy, could you put that in this place? Oh, he said, not a problem. So what the deal was we signed a contract to rent the place for 8 months or 10 months. And at the end of 10 months, rather than having to take that in an income, they flipped the rental payment over as a down payment, which qualified us for the mortgage. And there I was, demonstrating a home, exactly what I asked for, with nothing down in those conditions, against all odds. And is it because I'm special? No, it's not. It's because I knew at that time, and I had been taught, you put your energy and your attention on what it is that you do want, and you put your energy and attention on where it is that you want to go. The past of the past, it's only a learning experience. That's all. The poor me and gee, ain't it bad, and if and only, ifs or buts. Anybody do the ifs and buts? This is a good time of the year for that one. If ifs and buts were candies and nuts, I guess it'd be time for Christmas. Do you like that one? Yeah, so do I. Yeah, so there we were, you see, against all odds. One other one I just got to tell you this one too. I told it a while back, but this one's even more profound and more powerful. It's probably one of the single most powerful experiences I've ever had in my life. After being in the gang business and everything for so many years, and with my partner at the time having 3 daughters, I had 1, she had 2, we decided we'd like to get 2 boys to round out the family. And we're going to adopt 2 boys, and we just wanted boys with fair hair, blue eyes, the same age as our other daughters. That's all. Now, we started this process. I hadn't left the gang business yet, but I was on my way out. That was my commitment. And we started the process and went to social work. You know, you got to start where you are with what you can and do it now. I had no idea how that was going to happen. None. And if I would have tried to figure out how it was going to happen, it didn't happen that way anyhow. Never does. But you've got to start where you are with what you can and what you got now. Because if you don't get started, you can forget it. You get started, you have your energy and attention focused, make sure you're coming from the right place, and then you go for it and see what happens. Well, we were told, well, maybe you should try to be foster parents first. So go and take these courses. We're taking the courses. We're doing all of this stuff. And about, let's see, time passes about a year. And now I've left the gang business and I'm sort of almost a regular guy. Almost. And I'm working at that. And, you know, one night something really strange happened. I was a big news guy then, and I watched the news every night. And I always watched Channel 4 or 5 because Daryl Jans was on. And I worked with Daryl, so I knew him from work. He taught in the cinema, stage, television, radio program at SAIT. And so I always watched that program. But one night, and one only, and it was a Wednesday night, I watched this program, 2/7, I had it on that channel, called Wednesday's Child. Anybody ever heard of that one? It was an old program. Yeah. Special need kids up for adoption. Holy! This night on that program, there were 2 boys with fair hair and blue eyes, the same age as our daughters. So I applied. We applied. And we began to go through the process, told people we were doing it. And what everybody said, not even my practitioners in the church said, don't get too attached to the outcome, because with your background, your chances are virtually zero. True? Virtually zero. That's what everybody told me. That's what everybody told us. Everybody. But we just forged ahead with this idea and this vision, and this is what we wanted. And so the big day come where we made it down to the semifinals, I guess you could call it. Okay, we made it down to the semifinals. They went down. Holy, we're in the finals. Just like the CFL finals, semifinals today. We're the finals. Yeah, we're in the Grey Cup. 3 other couples. There's 4 of us, huh? So we got to go through the home study. Big day comes, the home study. Here comes a social worker. I have a trail behind me that's easy to follow, especially if you've got connections to get the right reports. She comes in. I had been doing my prayer work. Okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to approach this? Very simple. She come in. I said, look, before we get started, this is where I'm coming from. I told her the story. This is where I'm at, and this is where I'm going. I'm very clear about all of it. And took us through the interview, and lo and behold, we were selected. However, shortly thereafter, there came a stop. But people upstairs had read the whole report and figured there's something not quite right with this. We better just do a double check. So they hired a consultant outside of social services to come in to interview us. Did the same thing, got the same report. I left that gang business in September of '81, and in October of 1982, my 2 sons moved in with us. And the 2 boys were on the program because they had been taken away from an abusive situation, and my son had cancer of the lymphatic system for a whole year of treatment, lost his spleen, and his odds weren't very good. And he'd be on medication for life. And we had him a year, talked to the doctors, took him off of medication because of the healing work we did. He's 37 years old today and never been back on it. Okay? So 4 of my children are 17 months apart in age. So it was, and because he missed his whole first year, I had 3 in grade 1 in the same class at one time. And it was quite a challenge because, you know, I had my daughter, my partner had 2, we had these 2 from the situation where Dad actually murdered Mom and spent life in prison for it, and, you know, things like that type of stuff. So we had that environment to try and deal with all those little guys and help them with their spiritual energy and raise that into the right way, and never mind having to deal with this guy here. Holy, you should have tried to deal with this guy. That's been a full-time job for 30 years for me. And now I got to help with it. I had to hire Anna on full-time to help me with it. Because I need help dealing with me. No, it's true, honest. It's true. But anyhow, against all odds, you see. And against all odds simply means that conditions say no. But conditions are only conditions. It doesn't matter what you were. It only matters on recognizing what you are and what you're going to do with what you are. People say, well, you must have had people say, when they say, gee, Doug, you're good at this, where did you get the skills for doing that? Actually, I got them from that other life. Just transferred the energy. Transferred the energy on how you look at things. Transfer the energy on what you're projecting on it. Get away from the poo-poos. They're there. They're always going to be there. It's just like relationships when they break up, and they go apart like that. There's two ways you can do that. You can get mad and angry, or you can do it with understanding. Mad and angry is easier. People get on the phone and they start calling all the mutual friends up until they get called 20, 30, until they get 5 or 6 that agree with them, and then that's the group. The gee, somebody done me wrong song. Okay? And then, or you could look at the other way and do it with understanding. Harder, but much nicer energy. And the recognition that any time you got a separation or change in your life, it creates uncomfortableness. But that's the way it is. So raising your spiritual energy has to do with a lot of different type of things here. Where did this come from, the idea of this spiritual energy and why we have a difficulty with it? It really goes back to the book of Genesis. There's a great book called Hidden Mystery of the Bible, written by a religious science minister called Jack Addington. And he does what we call the metaphysical versions of some of the Old Testament stories. And so in the Garden of Eden, and the Garden of Eden is the state of consciousness that we all want to be in, and what we all can be in. That's when we choose the fruit from the tree of life. What's that mean? That means when our actions and deeds and everything that we are come from the spiritual perspective. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Keep that positive energy, that positive attitude, that positive flow. Know that life's going to give you some knocks. Some of them you don't deserve, and some of them you do deserve. Some of them are teaching lessons. Actually, they're all teaching lessons. It's just a matter of what we're going to do with it. But eating from the tree of life is taking it all in a spiritual perspective and applying ourselves with that spiritual energy, that rightness and that goodness. However, not being judgmental, because when we eat from the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, that's when we bring it down to the material level. And in the material level, we experience duality. That's where duality is, in the material level. So when we're looking at things and we're looking at conditions and we're giving our power to them, that's when we begin to falter. That's when we get bogged down. That's when the blocks happen. But when we shift and go over to this side and do it on the spiritual way, that's when the doors begin to open. Well, you don't know, I've been doing it this way for so many years. I've done so many terrible things. How long is it going to take me to get some action over here? Like that. Because the Spirit doesn't, the Spirit and the law that works through you doesn't discriminate between this is right or this is wrong. It only latches on to whatever you're thinking and begins to produce that for you. So if you think, oh, I'm an idiot, oh, God, I'm an idiot, it'll latch onto it and give you all kinds of circumstances to make you right. Yep, you're an idiot. Look at that. But if you say, no, I'm a good person, and there's great potential and great opportunity in me, and I know that, and I focus on that, then there's going to be another problem. The other problem is too many things are going to come to your way, and you're going to go, oh my God, there's all great, I don't know what to do. What's the difference between the two? It's the same person. It's just the guy that's getting behind the wheel and driving. Now, you know, if you start participating in the physical, have a few snorts, do a few lines, have a fatty, you know, get distracted with junk food and that, and you're driving your car, pretty soon you're not going to be on the highway. You'll be on the byway. Right? But if you get in behind that car and you're ready to go and you're full of enthusiasm, you got a goal and objective, whew, usually it goes pretty good, except for those little things that crop up, and they're just, oh well, they're part of the journey. Well, how do you know that's part of the journey? Well, it wouldn't have happened if you weren't going there. Right? If you weren't going there, that wouldn't have happened, right? Well, it doesn't make any sense at all. Well, it's true. So anytime you've got a positive direction and you're working with it and something happens, it's just part of it. Some of those mountains I go to climb, I'm looking at them, they look great. And then I get there and I get a raging creek or river. How am I going to get across that? Sometimes I have to go 2 or 3 clicks downstream to get across. What a pain. Who stuck the river there? But the river is part of the goal. Now, did I know that? No. But I found out along the way. If I hadn't gone to climb that mountain, then I wouldn't have met that obstruction. Okay? So remember, when you meet the obstructions on the journey and you got everything going the right way and you're doing everything right, you think you're going everything right, and it goes, that's because you're doing everything right. There's something that we need to garner in that to learn that's preventing us from experiencing the good we are. And so we need to look at that and release that. Because you see, at the spiritual level, at the soul level, the soul doesn't look at things as a problem. It doesn't look at things as an opportunity. Just remember what the soul, or that part of you that's here for, it's a journeyer, and it's here to look at it as an experience. What kind of an experience? A learning experience. And you could get it one of 2 ways. The easy way or the 4x4 method. Inspiration and desperation. Well, which comes first? Always inspiration. But generally, most of us don't listen. We wait till it gets desperate before we do something about it. You know that little thing that you hear in your car? It needs to be looked at. And then you're 1,500 miles or kilometers out of town and it breaks down and you think, I should have. Has anybody ever had that happen? If anybody hasn't had that happen, okay? Sure, that's because we didn't do inspiration, we do desperation. And it just isn't with the car. It's with everything that we do. Well, how do I know? Listen to the quiet, still voice. Don't listen to the, I'll look after it later. What the heck's this all about? Okay? We all run into those snags. I was coming down to the ordination on Friday night. I ran into a snag too. It was a really big bump on this road somewhere. I think I hit a curb. And I'm ending up, while the ordination's on, out in that cold weather, with all my good clothes and my robe in the back, changing a flat tire. How serious was it? Oh, well, that was Friday night. I'll get my car back tomorrow. That was last Friday night, right? I get my car back tomorrow. So, what am I doing with the energy? Well, just taking care of business. Felt bad of not being able to make it, but that's just the way it happens sometimes, right? So we move on. And we move forward. I want to leave you with one idea here. And this is one I've been working with for 10 or 15 years now. And it answers an age-old question. You know, people, we get so trapped in this life, and we accumulate this, that, and the other thing. But ultimately, when we leave the body behind, we leave everything else behind. And so in this philosophy, we believe in the eternality of the soul. So that means the soul continues on and the rest stays here. Now, what I was looking for years is, how can I take something with me? Now, if I could only figure that out, I'd have it made. Well, when you're looking at your bank account and your car and all of that, you can forget that because that don't go. It stays. But there is something that you take with you, and that's the soul. And that's the energy of the soul. And the soul, what we can do is enrich it. But there's only one way the soul can be enriched, and that's through experience. So when we're having our experiences of life, look at them as a learning experience, a growing experience, and an enrichment experience. That's what the spirit is here for. That's what the soul is here for. To learn, to grow, and to experience. You tell me anywhere in this universe where it isn't constantly growing and expanding. Everything. And then it goes back to the core. So we're always in a cycle like this. At an individual level, at the plant level, at the galactic level. We're always going like this. And so what you can take with you when you go is whatever you become. And there's nothing wrong with having a big bank account, but if you're not using that to enrich yourself, or that bank account doesn't enrich you. I know somebody who's got a big bank account and they don't do anything with it, but their enrichment comes from building that. So they're really enriched. They get really pumped, and that's okay. Whatever you do, see it as an opportunity to enrich the soul and to move you forward. Now, there's that other part of you called ego. It's an acronym for edging God out. And what happens with the ego is it doesn't see it as a learning experience. It sees it as pain and suffering. So, and that's a natural part of us, and we go through that. So we go through the pain and the suffering. We experience it because it's valid. We grieve it and let it go, whether it's something good or something bad, because that's part of what the ego needs. And it has a fear of moving forward. And that's part of what it does. And if we recognize that, we minimize the impact of it and don't feed that. And then we could see it as a learning and growing experience and look at each situation for the gift. Because every situation has a gift. And if you find the gift, no matter how much the tragedy appears, then you rise like the phoenix from the ashes, as in mythology, to bring goodness into your life for a greater period of time. But we have that choice. And that's what we got to do. Because if we do that, we move on. If not, we wallow. Anybody done any wallowing for a while? Oh yeah, I thought I was one of those water buffaloes there wallowing so much at times. But that's what we do. We bring it up and we look for the gift, and that raises us out of the experience. Because no matter what it is that's happened to you, no matter what it is that you've done or experienced, you can find good in it and bring it forward. All those years I spent in gang and crime and all of that, it helps me look at a young man or a young lady or a family with problems, and I know that I can help them if they want to move beyond that, because I've had the experience and I've done it and I know how to do it. Okay? That makes sense of my life. I got value from my past to carry forward. It doesn't matter what you've experienced, there's good in it that can be carried forward, and that you can enrich your life by sharing it and the lives of people around you. And that's what it's all about, folks. It's about moving from where you are into where you could be. I don't know where that is, but it's always better. Spirit never gives you less. It always gives you greater. Maybe not what you think, and not how, but it always does. So I know for you, as I know for myself, that we are raising our spiritual energy through awareness and understanding. And we do that by making choice, because we are the directors of this energy. We don't create it, we direct it. And the way we direct it creates experience for us. And each and every one of us are worthy of the very best in life. And I accept it for me, and I accept it for each one of us right here and right now. And so it is. Thank you. Woo-hoo!